So just welcome everyone. My name is John Steen. I am in San Francisco, California. I am a certified energy healing practitioner, and welcome to Johnergy Healing. So we are at the end of an arc that we started last week, or that we've been moving through, right? Last week we opened the space around grief, right? Not just grief as something that happens after loss, but grief is something that lives underneath of so much of what we are carrying. And then we moved into grief in the nervous system. Very powerful sit, right? And how it doesn't just live as emotion, but as pattern, as sensation, as something that the body continues to hold long after the moment has passed. And so today we come to the foundation of all of it, the nervous system itself. Right? So a lot of people may think that the nervous system is what's wrong with them, right? That it's too anxious, too sensitive, or too reactive, or perhaps too shut down. But the nervous system is not the problem. The nervous system is the recorder. It's the part of you that said, this is what we had to do for us to survive, right, as children. And then it kept doing that long after the moment was over, right? So we can think of it in the terms of trauma or childhood, things that happened in our childhood, right? Because trauma, as I've said many times, isn't just what happened to us. It's what happened inside of us that didn't get to move, right? So at the energetic level, which is where I work, trauma, we can say, is interrupted energy, right? It's that fear that couldn't discharge, the anger that wasn't safe to express, the grief that had nowhere to go, and confusion that never got resolved, right? Because that energy doesn't disappear. It gets held. It gets held in the body, in the nervous system, and in the field. And over time, that's what we actually call anxiety and shutdown, that hypervigilance, the overfunctioning and the people pleasing and the numbness. Because underneath all of that is something unfinished. Because most of us, as I say all the time, we were never taught how to feel as children, right? We weren't taught how to stay with anger. We weren't taught how to process sadness. And we weren't taught how to hold fear safely because our parents didn't know either. So feelings got interrupted, right? And so when a feeling gets interrupted, it doesn't disappear. That's when it becomes trapped energy. That's what an energy block is, right? It's not something that's abstract. It's just that energy in motion that never got to finish, right? As I've said many times, feelings are of the present moment and emotions are from the past. Energy in motion is what emotion means. And that energy has to go somewhere when it doesn't finish or complete. So over time, the nervous system organizes itself around these unfinished experiences. So instead of what's responding to what's happening now, we react from what never got completed then. That's a big one, right? Instead of responding to what's happening now, we react from what never completed then. And that's why something small today can feel very overwhelming, because it's not small to the body. It's connected to something older that never finished moving. It got interrupted. So I want to introduce something that some of you may help understand your own system more clearly. I've talked a little bit about this in the past, but there are things that we might call what are organizing wounds. Many modalities do talk about this, and these are just not painful experiences. They are experiences that organized your entire system around survival. Right? They become the central pattern that everything else builds on. And some examples of that might be emotional neglect, abandonment, emotional incest, being parentified, growing up around addiction or volatility, being unseen, unsafe, or responsible for others' emotions. So when something becomes an organizing wound, your nervous system builds its entire strategy around it. How you relate, how you feel, how you protect, and how you survive. And I've shared this numerous times, right, on my own journey, and I'm not going to go into that whole entire story, but just to show you what completion can do, right? Over the past few years, as I've been working with energy healing and working with my energy blocks, those places where something never completed, right? I had to work through several layers before I came to the deeper one, what I now understand as an organizing wound, right? So at 14 years old, after my parents separated, my mom, who struggled with alcoholism my entire childhood, she would come into my room at night, wake me up, and share deeply inappropriate, intimate details about her sexual life and her relationship with my father. And that experience, and others like it, right, was not just uncomfortable, it was overwhelming to my nervous system. And I froze and shut down, right? There was no space for me to process that, right? No safety to feel it, and no completion. When I shut down, that is the interruption, when I froze. So my system adapted to that. And that adaptation became survival mode. I have been living in survival mode my entire life, in that system of threat, right? Because I was threatened, if you will, in the middle of the night, being woken up by my mom who was drunk, and then her spilling out all her stuff onto me. So that became the organizing wound in my system, in my field, and in my body. Because survival mode, it isn't just stress. It's a state of being that's organized around threat, unsafety, right? So even when there is no threat, right, that can often look like the constant scanning of rooms, the overthinking, getting in those thought loops, people pleasing, emotional shutdown, needing control, and difficulty resting, and feeling on edge without even knowing why. Those are just some of those examples, right? Because the system learns, if I don't stay ahead of this, I won't be safe. And that becomes your baseline. And that's what children don't know anything else but to do that, right? The nervous system is doing what it needs to do. It's an intelligent system in us, right? It's doing what it needs to do to keep us safe in that moment, because we weren't taught anything else. But here's the part that changed everything for me. And I talked about this a little on Sunday, if you were here on Sunday. That deeper wound, that organizing wound, didn't release for me until I had completed those earlier layers. I had 4 other layers, 4 other energy blocks, if you will, that I had to work on before I got there. And when I finally got to that organizing wound, I didn't have to try to change. My system reorganized on its own, right? My body felt different. My nervous system softened. And then my baseline of threat shifted, and I've been out of survival mode. Everything changed from my brain all the way down in my nervous system. And it wasn't because I thought differently, it was because something in me finished. It completed. I felt that interrupted process when I shut down at 14-year-old under threat. And so this is where I also want to name something that's really important, right? Most of us, we're taught is cognitive work, right? Up here in our heads. It says think differently and behave differently. And that can help, right? But the completion work says something very different, because it's going to the body where the energy is. So when the charge is gone, when you clear that block, you don't need to try anymore. It unravels things in through your whole system, because your body has an innate intelligence where it regenerates itself once something is completed. So when something completes in your body, your entire nervous system reorganizes. The brain updates automatically, and the behavior shifts naturally, because it's the energy that didn't complete, that didn't finish, that is causing all the stuff up here, the thought loops, the survival mode, the people pleasing. It's the trapped energy. It's not who you are, all those patterns. It's just the energy that is doing all that. So if we only focus on the mind from the neck up, right, we can stay in that analysis, right? We stay in the explanation and the understanding of it. And those are important as well. We need to have terms and words to describe what we're feeling. But it has to go and meet the body. So when the original experience completes, the system no longer needs to recreate that pattern. That is huge, right? The system no longer needs to recreate that pattern. So in healing, in the way I work with energy healing, it's not about fixing you. It's about removing that interference, right? The interference of that trapped energy, the incomplete emotional experiences, then the nervous system patterns that are built around survival. It's about thawing out what's trapped in your body, what your nervous system is reacting to. And so when that interference lifts, the system knows exactly what to do. It reorganizes naturally. So today's session is about that, working with the whole nervous system itself, right? We're not forcing release. We're just creating enough safety in the body for things to rise. That's what a lot of energy healing is about, creating the safety within for you to finally feel those things and go to that deeper pain, because we're not going to go hunting for wounds, right? Again, we're just creating that safety in the nervous system, allowing the body to speak. and just getting whatever is ready to begin to complete, right? Come to the surface when it needs to. So because the nervous system heals through presence, not pressure, right? By coming in repetition, by doing it over and over and over again. So I hope that resonated with a lot of you. That's what we'll be getting into. So if you're just coming in, feel free to say hello. Let me just go and welcome everyone. Hello, Anne and Gay. Great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Maeve, great to see you in Dublin, Ireland. Beautiful. Good. I'm so glad you got a lot from the last session. Beautiful. I'm glad you came back. Karma, great to see you. Welcome. I hope you're doing well. You've lived with suppressed trauma for so long you didn't know anything else. Yes, me too, Karma. Me too. Comio, my friend, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, great theme today, the nervous system. It's such a big one. Beverly, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. Hello again, Susan in Missouri. Good. I'm so glad you enjoy this practice. Good. Thank you all so much for being here. And I hope that that resonated. Just, just go slow with yourself with all of this. It's just do it at your own pace, little by little, moment by moment, of trying to find where that energy blocks are in that trapped energy. It takes some time. Tracy, good to see you. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Yes, doing well here. So let's get into our sit today, shall we?